And in the end, the cash you spend is equal to the money we make. So sings Apple Core in 2025. I'm Kyle in the Sanctuary. You've made it to my channel, Pleasure Den of the Absurd, and we're going to talk and rant about the Beatles and their legacy and the Anthology Project 2025. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you think what I have to say at the end of this video is of any importance to somebody that might want to hear it, well then share the video and give me your comments in the bottom. Let's talk about it. First off, you're probably asking, what the hell do you know about the Beatles? Well, listen, my earliest memories, when I was 3 years old, I was listening to the Beatles. I was born in the year Paul McCartney quit, and I knew the Beatles were significant. When I was a little kid, I saw their first album all the way through to Abbey Road, and listening to the White Album as a little toddler will certainly do something to you. Anyway, I knew the significance of the Beatles and how important it was when they were in their solo years, and I'm a second generation fan, I guess you could say. And as far as their legacy is concerned, for years now, let's face it, in my opinion anyway, the Beatles, in order to shape their official story, well, they've taken a lot of liberty and have been pretty revisionist, in my view, in their story. I mean, let's face it, Stu Sutcliffe, for some reason, gets more importance than Pete Best. What, are you fucking kidding me? You know? You never hear anything about their original manager before Epstein took over. He's the guy that got him the Hamburg in the first place when they were playing with Pete Best. And don't believe me? Mark Lewinson, the official Beatles biographer, well, at this time anyway, because they booted his ass out of the organization, he did a documentary on Criterion's Hard Day's Night reissue. And, man, they just dismiss Pete Best outright. Now, whether he was a good drummer or not isn't the point. The point is, when the Beatles didn't have a gig, Pete Best's mom had a little cafe and let the Beatles play there. Not only that, she let them stay there because they didn't have anywhere else to stay. So you would kind of think that they would be diplomatic about it after all these years and say, look, things didn't work out with Pete, but him and his mom were kind enough to the band to let us continue on our musical journey. I mean, come on. And if it, at least Neil Aspinall in the original Anthology 1, had the Pete Best recordings there, made sure he got some royalties. I mean, after all, Neil Aspinall fathered a child with Pete Best's mom, so at least he had the dignity to do that. But that being said, they want to make their official story, and it's like, okay, yeah, and I think a lot of it too. Again, with the Beatles story, McCartney drives a lot of it. As much as all the interviews throughout the years with all the guys and Lennon and Harrison and Ringo and everything, they had their say, and some of them were a little bit more empathetic and realistic about the whole thing, but McCartney wants to shape it. And I think part of the impetus is, there was this big myth about Yoko Ono breaking up the Beatles when it comes down to it, it really kind of was McCartney and his taskmastering just getting on everybody's nerves, and he was really the guy that broke it up. Now, don't get me wrong, they were just burnt out by that point. I mean, come on. Lennon's on heroin. He's got Yoko taking up his time. Paul's just dismissive of Harrison, and Harrison's just upset at the dismissiveness, that he's getting from Lennon too. And, so he walks out and everything. And, okay, yes, and well, even too, listen to fucking Paul McCartney talking about after Epstein died. You listen to all the other guys, and Lennon's like, oh man, I knew we had it. And George was like, oh man, it was tough when Brian died. And then they cut to Paul. Shit, man, we were managing ourselves. We didn't need him, but... it's like, Jesus Christ, man. Can't this guy give anybody some fucking props? I mean, Brian has issues. I mean, the Beatles story is strife with contradictions, and his story and his side and their perception. And so, okay, they want to make a neat little narrative. All right, whatever. Yeah. So that's that. I also want to get into the whole anthology debacle and a little bit of context with that. So here is that part now. All right, now, I knew I was going to do my own little talk about anthology, and there's a whole load of videos out there right now. I mean, just my YouTube, whatever, homepage or whatever, when I bring it up, there's just channel after channel. So I've seen a lot of thumbnails and I've seen a lot of titles, and you know how it is. You gotta emphasize a title to get people interested to see what the hell you got to say about it and everything. So controversy was brewing about anthology as soon as the first information came out about the re-release and the surprise of an Anthology 4 album, and rightly so, because people have been complaining about Apple for years now. After the Revolver Special Edition, let's face it, it started with Sgt. Pepper Special Edition. They're giving you all these extras, and then they had the White Album and Let It Be, and the whole Get Back documentary and Revolver. And all the hardcore fans were like, oh man, Rubber Soul's next. And then all of a sudden, Apple gives a big fuck you to the hardcore, lifelong Beatles fans and go off into a completely different direction. And left a lot of people wondering. And so I'm here to say, just through my own observation over the years with the whole revisionist history and the whole direction that this thing is going in, get used to it, folks. They're not catering to you anymore. I mean, maybe you'll get it, but you're not the core audience intended for their future products. And don't take it from me, little Kyle in the Sanctuary and his little YouTube channel. Listen to that Parlophone guy on YouTube. He's got the Andy Capp, the British dude with the rotary phone in the back. Real high-tech Beatles channel. He's got to have a pipeline of official contacts with Apple, because it looks like, although he doesn't say that he's an affiliate or a employee of, but he's got to be tied in somehow. And he openly said it. I forget which release it was. Maybe it was the red and blue reissues. But he basically said, and it was at that dividing point where the fans were like, the old hardcore fans were like, wait a minute, why are you dismissing our interests? And he said it. Apple is not going for you as a target audience. They are going for the youth market. They got a lot of product to churn out for the young kids, and that's where they're going and putting their interests. Here's a little tidbit too. In the beginning of Get Back, I mean, holy Christ, in the first 5 minutes of this, there's revisionist history. I think the way I remember it, they mention the Beatles in the early years and give the credit to Ringo when it's really Pete Best they're talking about. But watch the first few minutes of this. Already off the bat, it's revisionist. And speaking of revisionist history, they also did it when they released this stuff. They re-released these compilations with new mixes of songs, and some were good, some weren't. My take on these is it's like you dissected a person and put it back together again. You know, you deconstructed it and reconstructed it to where the instruments are supposed to blend together. Yes, you can pick everything out. Oh, there's bongos. Oh, there's an acoustic guitar here. And it's like, yeah, you can hear each individual thing, but it's not blending together. And what is this? I think it was, it's one of the songs from Help. I think it was You Got to Hide Your Love Away. The acoustic guitar on it, man, is so light that it doesn't even sound like an acoustic, you know? Like that song, you know, that folksy guitar, they ruined it, man. And therein is revisionism of the original recordings. I think in a way they're treading on stuff. I mean, let's face it. Like I say, some of the remixes were good, some weren't. People freaked out over I Am the Walrus. And the other thing with these albums too, they put Now and Then on here. It didn't fit. It should have been on, if they were going to reissue the anthology albums, it should have been there. That was the normal place for it. All right, now kind of sticking to the theme. I know I'm going a little all over the place, but for years, the Beatles said, Paul McCartney has said in interviews, there's nothing left in the vaults. Whatever the Beatles released was what the Beatles had to offer. And let's face it, the Beatles jumped in on the bandwagon. The anthology documentary video television series was a great way to introduce all of these unreleased takes, you know, alternate takes, alternate mixes, you know, all that stuff, demos and whatnot, which the Beatles were clamoring for because there was years and years of bootleg albums of this stuff. This black album here with the embossed Beatles, this is all Let It Be stuff. And you got to remember, those the original audio tracks, the tapes from the Let It Be sessions were stolen, and that's where all these types of albums came from. That's why, you know, the fidelity was there, but the performance, let's face it. So, you know, there was all these things, you know, a lot of bootlegs, and of course the Ultra Rare Track series is one of the penultimate bootleg things. This one here has takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 25, and 26 of Strawberry Fields Forever. So there was a lot of stuff that the Beatles had to offer. Now, I was working music retail when Anthology was released, and it was a big deal at the time, you know, and it was over 3 separate nights. There was a part 1, part 2, and a part 3, I believe. They were 2 hours apiece, and it spanned, you know, from when they were kids all the way up to the bitter end. And they had, you know, brand new recordings, Free as a Bird and Real Love. And I thought they were good songs. Free as a Bird, to me, is a Beatles song, you know, and with Real Love too, you know, they put in a good effort. I mean, you know, again, I don't know why Yoko gave them like these demo tapes of Lennon. Surely there was, you know, maybe something in the studio he had done, or maybe even a different home recording that was a little bit better. But, you know, such as it is, it worked. They made it work. The voice of Lennon's did sound like it was from an old cassette. But they put in a great effort, and, you know, they made these songs work, and that was good. So getting back to the anthology and YouTube and content creators, and nothing that I'm saying here is in any way critical of any YouTube content creator, but I purposefully stayed away from watching anybody's take on this stuff. I did watch Pop Goes the 60s, Matt Williamson's review of Anthology 4 and the 13 new or unheard recordings that fill out that album. Now, part of the controversy that really upended a lot of Beatles fans on YouTube was the fact that in this span of time, you know, you had those special releases, Sgt. Pepper, Let It Be, Revolver, and the White Album. Now, I'm not really a completist per se. I have heard all, if not all, of those special editions. I've heard a majority of them. And personally, I don't think I would get them. The only one that really interested me, ironically, is Sgt. Pepper, which is not one of my favorite Beatles albums. But let's face it, every Beatles album, regardless, has great classic songs on it. But that one, you know, when you hear these alternate stuff, and they did such a good job with the fidelity and everything, that it does make you appreciate the real album more. So with Sgt. Pepper, it definitely worked as far as that goes. You know, maybe the White Album, which is actually one of my favorite Beatle albums. It's kind of nice to hear the Escher demos. That's pretty cool. So that one might interest me. Let It Be, absolutely not. I've always felt for years listening to those Get Back sessions, the Let It Be sessions. That's heartbreaking. That's garbage. You listen to the Beatles at that point in time, and you're like, this is the same band that played like their first album live around a bunch of microphones? You're kidding me. The magic was gone. You know, it was forced out of them, and you know, so it was a whole muddied affair, no matter who did the mix. Glyn Johns, George Martin, Phil Spector, Giles Martin, so that's the way I feel about it. I do not care to get that special edition. And Revolver, I like that album more than Sgt. Pepper. And I don't know if for what they offered on that, I don't know if I would necessarily get it. So that as it is, when they announced Anthology 4, they're like, first off, everyone's surprised that there was an Anthology 4, because 1, 2, and 3 kind of neatly summed up the entirety of their career. But again, let's face it, in the end, the cash you spend is equal to the money they make. So a lot of people got bent out of shape because they're like, well, we're not going to release Anthology 4 on its own. You got to buy 1, 2, 3 with 4. So people were like, well, I already have 1 and 2 and 3. So now you're triple dipping, to get that one album. And I don't know if it really had to do with fan backlash or not. After a couple weeks, Apple says, oh, okay, yeah, we're going to sell Anthology 4 on its own. And so then people were like, oh, man, what are these guys doing? I mean, Apple Corps does not care about the Beatles' legacy. They're concerned about squeezing out as anything to get a nickel out of anybody, man. They don't care. I think at this point in time, the Beatles' legacy is just to convince the younger people that this is a phenomenon and important to listen to. And, if you're not listening to the Beatles from your grandparents or your aunts or your uncles or your parents, and experiencing the original recordings for yourself, whatever. I mean, again, their revisionist history with the original recordings via Giles Martin and all these remixed albums, that's the way they're going. So that's a legitimate thing, They're just whatever. They're throwing this shit out there, and now people are really bent out of shape over the fact that Anthology 4 is a majority of tracks that were released on those special editions. Now, for a guy like me, I don't particularly care because, like I say, I'm not really going to get them. And I've listened to Anthology 4 on YouTube quite a few times. I think it's a great collection. I think it's on par with all the other Anthology albums, if not probably one of the best of the bunch, or at least one of the more interesting ones to me. But I can understand, okay, there you go again. For the completists, the hardcore fans that are just going to get whatever Apple churns out, okay, you got a legitimate beef. But for me, Anthology 4, as it is, I don't mind it. If I had the money, I would probably get it, but it's not a priority. But I did enjoy it. It is good to hear these guys almost making the take. It's good to hear the instrumental versions, Fool on a Hill, Nowhere Man, the orchestral takes, I Am the Walrus, She's Leaving Home. That, to me, that's pretty cool. I like that. And I gotta admit, man, that version of In My Life is really refreshing to hear, man. I almost might enjoy it more than the original song off of Rubber Soul, And it's good to hear all 4 of them playing. And So that's my opinion about the Anthology 4 album. So what about the documentary, the official Beatles story? Well, again, it's well done. Will I get the anthology remastered on DVD? Probably not. You know why? I've got this. This is basically the director's cut. It's the entire series, and it's got it's got time codes on the bottom. It's definitely watchable, as far as picture quality and sound quality goes. And the thing is, and it's noticeable too, with this, it goes all the way up to 1969, and it ends with the rooftop. So on, you got volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So at the end of the series, on volume 8, it ends with the rooftop. And so when Anthology was broadcast on television, the most important Beatles album of them all, Abbey Road, got like 4 or 5 minutes of conversation and information. You're like Yoko wasn't there. John missed part of it. It was the one album you really wanted to know more about and how it was made and everything. And they spent so much time on everything else, but as the work print shows, they only made it up to the rooftop. So they kind of squandered the Abbey Road portion. But the one cool thing about the set is this 2-disc special features disc, and it's got all of the electronic press kits, promo spots. It's got all the videos, the Real Love single release, the original broadcast video. It's Free as a Bird promotional video. You got George Harrison on Today Tonight, Neil Aspinall, George Martin, Derek Taylor interviews. And when I say press kits, like when you walked into a video store, these were things that were sent to the retail outlets to play in store, to hype up the new release or to anticipate the new releases coming up. And the interesting thing is, in 96, when Anthology 3 came out, and they're heading into that 1969 period, Paul intimates what would eventually become Peter Jackson's Get Back. And he said in his casual interview, "Oh, when you look back on the real film and everything, we got along better than people think, and blah blah blah." And again, like I say, I think a lot of the Beatles' revisionist history is to save McCartney's ass and being, hey, I wasn't really the asshole that broke the band, broke the straw that broke the camel's back of the Beatles, and that's debatable. I mean, was he a taskmastering asshole? Yeah. But, it did give us a lot of those great songs that were on Let It Be. Again, like I said, every album has Beatles classics, and Let It Be is one of them. Let It Be is not one of my favorite Beatle albums either, but, Get Back, Two of Us, I've Got a Feeling, and Don't Let Me Down, you know, One After 909. Those are cool, and Across the Universe as well. You know, I do like I Me Mine off of Anthology 3 more than the one that's on Let It Be. So there is merit to the Anthology albums. Even Anthology 4 for me, even though I don't have those special editions, you know, that's not a big concern that, you know, they're re-releasing tracks that have already been released. Hey, listen, I'm a Hendrix fan, and they did the same thing. There's a particular track called Jungle that's been released like on at least 3 releases already. Power of Soul studio version is another one. It's just, you know, it's like, come on, man. And I'm a Hendrix freak, and I got a lot of Hendrix bootlegs, and I know what it's out there, and you know, but that's a video for another time, because I do have a lot to say about that. That's why you got to subscribe to the channel, this channel, Pleasure Den of the Absurd. So, what else did we have to say about? Let me pause the camera and think. If I can hit the pause. All right, so just to give a little epilogue here. The Beatles' Love, which kind of started the whole Giles Martin remixing thing. This was a great concept. This was a great project. I'm all for this type of thing. He went and, you know, did mashups of all these all the Beatles songs, you know, alternate versions. The Strawberry Fields Forever is great on here. The I Want You, She's So Heavy, Helter Skelter mashup is really good. Drive My Car, The Word, What You're Doing, that was a great mashup. Come Together, Dear Prudence, that was another great mashup on here. This was really, this is definitely something to have. I enjoyed this. And you know what? When this came out and we listened to this for the first time when it was brand new, I was like, man, every band's going to want to do that. Can you imagine a Zeppelin mashup if Jimmy Page would allow somebody, you know, Giles Martin had the vision and he did it. You know, can you imagine if Jimmy Page allowed somebody else to take all the Zeppelin masters and chop it up and make a Zeppelin mashup album? Man, that would be great. Any band that you can think of that you enjoy, the Stones, Steely Dan, Queen, you know, Metallica, you know, anybody, you know, can you imagine it? It would be great. But does anybody remember this documentary, The Complete Beatles? This came out in the early 80s. I do believe this is one of the first, if not the first, made for home video market VHS tapes. The Complete Beatles, narrated by Malcolm McDowell, tells the whole Beatles story. You get a little bit more about Pete Best on this thing than you do on Anthology, you know, because the Beatles got that revisionist history. Here's a little fun thing. I go to a lot of movie conventions, and that's where I got that director's cut of Anthology, right? So on the same night, me and my brother went to that convention. He bought the deluxe $200 Revolver Giles Martin special edition, and we were going to listen to it when we got home from the convention. Well, I bought this for $5. It's I don't know. This might be from Germany, right? And I would suggest, because there's a whole series of these for all of the Beatle albums, each one. We're listening to one right now. So anyway, this says, the American Mono LPs, Yesterday and Today, and Revolver, plus bonus tracks on one CD. And it's crystal clear. And the reason I bring this up is you know, it's got Revolver tracks. And there's stuff on this $5 CD that is not included in that $200 Super Deluxe Giles Martin Revolver box set. It's got Rain, the 7-inch mono mix, Paperback Writer, Take One, a Breakdown, Paperback Writer, 7-inch mono mix, And Your Bird Can Sing. The same alternate take is on Anthology 2, but here without the laughter. And when you hear it without the laughter, it's actually a pretty good take, you know, it's good. For No One, early mix, no horn overdub. Dr. Robert, UK mono mix. I'm Only Sleeping, the UK mono mix. Tomorrow Never Knows, alternate mono mix, more tape loops, was only very briefly available on the very first mono pressing of the British Revolver LP. $5, crystal clear, high fidelity, got stuff that Giles Martin didn't give you. And lastly, too, to just put a bow on the whole Apple just wants your money thing. I mean, let's face it. So Anthology 1 comes out, it's got Free as a Bird. Well, in 2000, you know, they released the Beatles 1, and they put it out on Blu-ray. And it included like all these promo films and live videos of the Beatles. They did a great job with it. All the films were painstakingly restored. You can watch videos of how they did that on YouTube, how they put this together, and it is great. Now, they have the promo videos for Free as a Bird and Real Love, and apparently, I understand, those are different mixes than are on Anthology 1 and 2. So, you know, they're making you get all this extra product because, hey, well, now for Anthology 4, they tweaked Free as a Bird. They're tweaking lyrics that George is singing. They've removed George's solo guitar from Real Love on Anthology 4. So, yeah, the cash you spend is equal to the money they make. Let's face it, get used to it. That's all you're good for. That's the Beatles' legacy from now on. To be honest, I didn't think this video would go on this long, but yeah, there's a lot to say. And I think people should just get used to the idea, especially all you old-timer Beatles fans, lifelong fans. You know, your time has come, man. Hold on to all those original recordings, because they're just, I think, you know, they're just gonna bastardize it. And besides, that doesn't mean you should stop going out in the wild and searching for those other alternate CDs and albums that are out there that will have stuff that Apple Core hasn't given you. And I think Apple is rotting to the core because, let's face it, Neil Aspinall is gone. George Martin is gone. At this point, Ringo and Paul have nothing to gain from it. I mean, you know, outside of some more royalties for more product that, I don't know, man. You know, I think in some regards, you know, the Beatles' music will live on. We all know it. It doesn't need to be stuck in a blender and churned out or microwaved or repackaged or reassembled into something else. You know, I think it's, in a way, it's almost doing a disservice, because if somebody was to hear some of those original singles and album tracks, they might not like it because they're used to the a repackaged thing. And the further we get out from the original source, just as we get away from nature as beings in society, it's just going to set us on a path of the unnatural. And with that, I'm going to conclude my rant about Apple Core. And I think, I just want to stress too, I don't think that it's necessarily the Beatles. They might be signing off on this stuff, but I think at this point, they don't care. They're just trying to keep their organization going. And, once you've released everything, how many more times can you release it? So it's, maybe you'll get that Rubber Soul box set. Who knows? I mean, does it, really matter at this point? They've angered the fans, and, let's not lose sight of the fact that the Beatles made great music. They were a great band, and all those records, including Yellow Submarine, are worth having and worth listening to and worth sharing with your loved ones, young and old. And just by doing that alone serves the legacy right, with respect and genuine interest. Like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you think that what I said and some of my perspective is worth hearing, and you know somebody that might be interested in what I just said, share this video with them, have them subscribe. It would mean a lot, and I hope this video gets out to the masses. I wanted to put in my 2 cents. And like I say, I purposefully avoided watching anybody else's videos just because I wanted to present something fresh from my point of view. Maybe it aligns with some of the others out there. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Now that this is up on YouTube, I think I can allow myself the privilege of seeing what some of the other people have said. And we're all Beatles fans, and I am going to continue listening to the Beatles. It is nice that the younger generation will listen to them. They deserve to be heard, but we don't need to make Frankenstein monsters out of beautiful creations as they are. Thank you for watching.